Good afternoon. Welcome to the ISPA Reopening Town Hall number 8, Insights from Lead Therapists and Service Providers. We're going to let you all get loaded in and we'll start in just a few minutes. Mute, there we go, thank you. Hello and welcome to another edition of the ISPA Reopening Town Hall series. Thank you so much for joining us wherever you're coming to us today from. Today, our conversation will focus on insights from lead therapists and service providers. And I am personally very excited about this conversation today to hear from our therapists on the ground. We have another excellent crew of panelists who will share their reopening insights and experiences with us today. And as we've mentioned during other previous town halls, we've sought out panelists involved with spas that are open and accepting guests so that they can share their real world boots on the ground observations as our spas work toward reopening and beyond. Before we start another fantastic panel discussion, we want to express our gratitude to Universal Companies for their generous support of this town hall. We can't do it without the wonderful support of our resource partners. And also, near the end of today's topic, our conversation, we're going to be giving away some fantastic products that they have provided. So thank you very much, Universal Companies, and stick around to see who's going to get those products. We are all very excited to jump in for our conversation with our therapist today, but a few housekeeping items before we start. First, please make sure that you do send us questions through the chat feed. At the bottom of your Zoom, there should be a chat box there. So we do read your questions and work them into our dialogue today. If you're on Facebook Live, we have someone there also sending questions through, so you can send us questions there also. We do record this town hall. It will be on YouTube tomorrow and also on Facebook Live later today. And lastly, because we all work in different spas and different locations and have different laws and different business requirements and needs, we do have a diversity of opinion here, which is important. And please listen to the information that makes the most sense for you, works with your laws and your business. So we appreciate that diversity of opinion amongst our panelists. So let's jump into our discussion. Before we start, panelists, please make sure that you introduce yourselves and tell us where you're from and what you do. So I'm going to start today with you, Kristen. I know you're from our Fairmont Princess in Scottsdale. My first question for you is, throughout our town halls, we've heard repeatedly how important it is for leaders to support their employees through the reopening process. What steps has your spa taken to make you feel comfortable and have a positive reopening experience? And tell us about you and your spa before we answer the question, Kristen. Thank you.
Absolutely. So my name's Kristen. I am the lead esthetician at the Fairmont Scottsdale Princess. And I think that's a really important question. And, you know, one of the major things that our spa did prior to reopening was we had an all staff socially distanced meeting where our leadership team really were transparent in both their expectations of us and gave us a clear vision of what reopening was going to look like and what our day-to-day operations are going to be. So I think there was a lot of comfort in knowing that as soon as you walk in the door, you have a direction to take.
That's great. I think that meeting, that initial meeting is a really important meeting to make sure that people come back and feel really comfortable. I would imagine, Kristen, that there were many questions that you were allowed to ask, and that if you had any anxiety or fears, that Carrie was able, who's your spa director there, was able to address those concerns. Is that correct?
It is, yes. And like I said, it was a very transparent meeting. We weren't sure what the business was going to look like. We didn't know how long we were going to be able to stay open. We didn't know if we were going to have patrons coming in. And so there was this level of trust being, so transparent. And we asked a lot of questions. There was a lot of feedback. People weighed in heavily in our decision of how to reopen, which made everyone feel really comfortable and safe.
That's great. That's great. And I think the word that you hit on, the two words that you hit on that are fantastic for us to use during this time is communication and trust, because every day is a different day. So you have to have those channels of communication and trust open so that people can feel comfortable and have a positive re-entry into work experience. Thank you for that. David Chandler from our dear friends at the Venetian in Las Vegas at the Canyon Ranch there. How was your reopening process? What steps did Deirdre take to make you guys feel comfortable coming back into the operation?
Much the same as Kristen said, we had a meeting with the therapist all in a room, and we addressed those concerns. Any questions we had, any concerns, she told us how we were going to open, what we were going to do for the guest. We put up stations, sanitizing stations, mask stations throughout the spa, things like that that really helped out. And our concerns were really met. If you really had a serious concern that you really didn't feel you needed to be there at that time, they really took that into consideration with us coming back. No one was forced to come back in. We were called and asked, the first few therapists, if we wanted to come back, which made me feel really good not being forced to come back at first, because we really weren't sure what was going on. And that was her thing, is we're doing everything, and this is all in untreated water. So that was the thing that she was telling us, is we're going to be as safe as we can with all the information that we have available to us today. And that's always been the case with Deirdre. She's helped us that so much.
And you have a large spa there at the Venetian in Las Vegas. It's close to 100,000 square feet. Is that correct?
Correct. And we have like 80 some odd treatment rooms. So we definitely spaced everybody out as we came back. There's a limited number of us who actually came back. So my room I had actually 2 rooms for the day. So I could do one service in one room and actually leave that there and then go do another service and clean them later and kind of go back. And the whole disinfectant has totally changed the way we do things now, in the sense of taking everything off the table, spraying everything down, wiping the whole room down as you're done, only using the linen you use for that day. Nothing stays in that room at the end of the day.
That's great. And I would imagine that the guests are very appreciative of those
Yes.
you're taking in order to keep you safe and to keep them safe in the treatment room.
And that's what I tell the guests if they ever have any concerns about wearing a mask, just about we're keeping both of us safe. And I explain to them, if you ever need time to breathe, I know how wearing a mask is, let us know and I could back down, give you some time to breathe, and then we can continue the massage.
That's a fantastic piece that you of advice that I think you just gave us all, and that in the real-time moment with the guest in the room, how you're having to adjust what you're doing to
Yes.
what they may need. And they may need a mask break in a service where you step out of the room and give them a chance to sort of catch their breath as well. I think you may have solved a riddle that we on the director management side have been asking ourselves for the last 4 months, how to handle the guest in the mask if they need a break. That's a really smart idea. I hope the directors, I'm taking notes here, so I hope the directors are as well of what these really wise therapists are saying.
And I think what's really important is what she did is she gave us each massage is now, it's still a 50-minute service, but we have more time to clean and more time with the guest. So I'm not being rushed, to get them out and get them in. I have plenty of time to clean, so I can take a little bit more time with the guest during this time. And
can you clarify? There was a question from Trudy Smith. You referenced earlier that all the linen leaves the treatment room for the day. So does that mean that you're not storing linen in your treatment rooms overnight, or what is that process like?
Yeah, we have a whole linen department where we store all of our linen. So we just pick up linen for the day. So I'll pick up, 8 sheets, a couple of towels, or whatever I need for the day. And then whatever I don't use, it goes back in the dirty linen and the room is disinfected. So you don't stock like we used to, where you could have your room nice and set up really nice and all that, and your number of sheets. We don't do that anymore.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Great answers, David. Thank you so much. Mark, our friend from Kohler Water Spa. Well, we're quite familiar with Kohler Waters from our current chairman of ISPA, Garrett. So thank you for joining us today. Talk about for us, Mark, your re-entry back into work and how your spa director there made that comfortable for you and for the team. And tell us a little bit about your spa.
Well, we're the Kohler Water Spa in Kohler, Wisconsin. So one of our spas, our flagship, you could say. A lot of work went into, many hours went into preparing to open. So our spa director met with a number of healthcare panel that did walkthroughs with the spa, that did measurements, that did kind of tested her a little bit on what if this happens or if this happens, and really kind of trained her. So she had everything prepared so that when we did come back, it was all ready for us. So much like the others, the first day we came back, there was an orientation. So she explained all the safety measures that went into the preparing for the spa. There was, like the others, time for us to raise our hand and voice our concern, and those questions were answered and given to us to give us confidence that we're safe and that our guest is safe.
Now, Mark, were you a part of that resetting up of the spa, or was that done prior to you coming back to work?
That was done prior to coming back, and then myself and the other leads did come back prior to the team and went through and were trained and went through different things to tweak whatever we might need to tweak. But most of that was done prior to me coming back.
And so I like that you and the leads in your spa had an opportunity to weigh in on those measures that were put into place and make the adjustments. I think that's a really important piece for us as we come back to work, that we all come back with a guideline in place and ideas in our head. But when you put that in front of a lead therapist or a lead esthetician, we have to be open to the feedback from the therapist in the treatment room to help make those guidelines even more resonating for our guests and for you guys in the treatment room. Mark, how large is your spa in Kohler?
I think we have 30 treatment rooms. How many treatments do you have? 34, because I think we're at half mass right now and we're at 17, so 34. Yeah, 25,000 square feet.
That's great. Thank you so much for that, Mark. I appreciate that. Lydia, welcome. How are you doing today? Make sure you unmute.
Got it. Thank you
For joining us today. We appreciate you being on the call, and you're coming to us from the Carillon Hotel in Miami. So thanks for joining us today. Talk to us about how your team was re-entered back into the spa operation, and what your director there did to make you guys feel safe and comfortable coming back to work.
Well, we first started with a training. We didn't have all therapists come in right away. We only had half our therapists come in. And we did do a training with everybody as far as PPE, as far as how the rooms are going to be cleaned. All rooms are disinfectantly fogged. At the end of the day, we were given all of our PPE equipment, face shield, mask, gloves, apron. We were explained how these things are going to be worn during every service to make sure that the guests felt safe. The estheticians wear their mask and face shield. The therapists wear the apron and face mask and gloves at all times during each service. And like some of the other spas, we were given 2 rooms to work in so that we wouldn't have to be rushed between services. And then also the same thing with the linens. All linens are removed at the end of the day. And we really wanted to make sure that everybody felt safe and confident coming back to work and knowing that they were going to be in a safe environment, not just us as service providers, but our guests as well.
That's great. And we have a question that came in. When you're taking the linen from the storage room to your treatment room, how are you ensuring that it stays safe and clean as it gets to your room? Are you just carrying it, or do you have it in a container? How are you getting it to the treatment?
We have them in containers. We have a container for dirty linens, and we also have a container for clean linens. And also we have to make sure that when we are removing dirty linens that we have gloves on as well, which is something I think as therapists we didn't usually have to worry about, but it's something that's come up.
Right, right. And can you tell us, Lydia, how large is the Carillon Spa in Miami?
We have 30 treatment rooms altogether. We are at half right now as well. We're only using 15 of our rooms.
That's great. That's great. Thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
those answers. And just to clarify, Nikki is the current spa director, correct, Mark, at the Kohler Spa. That's correct. Great first question. Thank you so much. I wanna switch gears a little bit. I'm gonna come to you, Kristen, first on this question. You know, there's a lot of changes that are happening to the physical spaces of our spas in this new environment that we're in. And, you know, people coming back to work are going to have to sort of embrace, while the spas may look different, they may be laid out differently, the furniture is in different places. Do you have key tips that you can give to employees who are coming back as they navigate the amount of change in the physical work environment? Do you have any key tips for them to handle that process and that change?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like the spa industry right now, it's obtaining this balance of being very sanitized, but also continuing to have a spa ambience. So whether that's, you know, nicely played music, we still have candles in our treatment room. Our lights are still dim, but you can tell it's still it's a very sterile environment. We have, you know, the minimum products set out, and everything's just very clean, but also it's kind of like a minimalist approach. It's clean, and it still has that beautiful spa feeling. Yes, you know, our relaxation room, it's different than what it was. It is socially distanced, but I think what I've found is that clients actually really they're appreciative of it.
And how do you feel working in that environment? How do you feel in that environment?
I feel great. I feel safe. I feel secure. And I think, you know, just me feeling confident in that environment and with the new settings, I think that translates to our guests, and then they feel confident and secure and comfortable and are able to relax because they know they're in safe hands.
You hit the nail on the head.
Oh,
If you guys feel comfortable, the guests will feel comfortable. That's great advice. And you know, you're proving the theory that we all went into this with when we put the ISPA toolkit together, was that we wanted to first make the environment safe for our therapists and for our receptionists and for our attendants. And then if we made the environment safe for them, they would have a confidence in what we were doing and then turn around and give that to the guests. And that's been your experience, Kristen, in the treatment room?
absolutely. Absolutely.
And how do you feel? We're getting some questions about masks coming through, and you're an esthetician, and I know you're wearing the mask, and are you wearing the shield also?
Yes. Yes, I'm wearing both.
And does that give you a certain level of comfort as well? Because the guests will not be in a mask for a facial, correct?
It does. I feel pretty comfortable. I mean, it takes some time to get used to, you know, wearing both. But I feel safe. I feel comfortable. It reminds me to be more mindful of my breath in the treatment room, which is actually has a calming effect when you're trying to be mindful of your breath. But I feel completely safe. And I think my guests feel safe too.
And are the guests communicative about what they're experiencing when they come into the treatment room? Are you getting, I know guests often open up their hearts in the treatment room. Are you getting feedback from the guests in terms of how they are responding to the changes in the environment?
Honestly, every guest that I've had is just so grateful that we're back open and they're able to come in and get services. It's amazing. We were on lockdown for almost 2 months, and there are people out there that were on lockdown, quarantined by themselves, and did not have physical touch for 2 months. So to come into a spa space where it's clean and it's sanitized, and, you know, for us providers to, I mean, that's the core of what we do, is caring for other people. And to be able to give that service right now is so important. I have had a guest say, you know, like, I'm so sorry you have to wear that, when they're talking about facial masks, but I'm not sorry. I want to be safe. I want my guests to be safe. And I think, you know, we're just taking every precaution that we can.
That's great. And the word that you just used that I really think is going to be a big word for us is working mindfully. That part of what this has made us do is work mindfully in every interaction that we have, that it's what, and working and being very present with our breath, with what's essential with that guest. So I think that's a great note for us to take back into our operations is, are we working mindfully in the time that we're in? I know we all sort of, you know, jumped in with both feet to the deep end with reopening, but now that we're open, are we working mindfully? Are we working with that intention? That's great advice, Kristen, thank you. Mark, same question for you, coming back to a very different environment and setting up your spa. What tips do you have for those associates and those employees who are coming back to work in a new normal?
I think the greatest fear is the unknown. So people are coming in with all these fears of not knowing how this is going to be. So I think we talked about it earlier. Communication is so important, to communicate all the different things that we're doing that are protecting myself as a therapist and our guest. You know, that's the number one priority. And then on the flip side of that, I love what Kristen said about giving the guest this amazing experience. That's still the goal. So educating our fellow therapists so that their imagination doesn't run wild, I think is so important, and it just helps alleviate their anxiety.
Mm-hmm. And to ask questions. I think sometimes we're afraid to even ask the hard questions, and we want our therapists and our receptionists and attendants to ask the hard questions and test us to make sure that what we're doing is keeping you safe and keeping the guests safe.
And everybody that comes back, you know, has an idea of what that is. And hearing all the different feedback, sometimes we already have it covered. Other times it's like, oh, I didn't think about that. And we can make changes. So it's that communication is so important.
So true, so true. Thank you for that, Mark. I appreciate that. Lydia, I mean, you're back in a big spa, a lot of different moving parts. You have a residential program. You have a lot going on in that particular spa. How did you help your associates navigate those changes when you came back? And a question for you, Lydia, that came in from Bo Montero, who's one of the lead therapists at the Montage in Kapalua Bay. How are you and your guests adjusting to you wearing gloves and treatment?
As a therapist, it was, I'm not gonna lie, it was different. It was new, but it feels just as comfortable massaging with the gloves than without the gloves. The only thing I would say that was challenging was maybe using too much product or not enough product. But after a few massages, it was like the new norm. It was very comfortable using them. And I think the guests feel comfortable coming back knowing that we are taking all of these necessary precautions, you know, for them and for ourselves.
And how was navigating the new environment? You have 2 treatment rooms as opposed to 1. You're working at 50% occupancy. All of your amenities are unavailable. How did your team and how did you navigate those changes?
Well, I think it's like Mark said, there was a lot of fear in the beginning of how things are going to run, if this was something that we were going to be able to do, you know, and still provide wonderful, caring services for our guests. But, you know, we were able to adjust very well. Having the 2 rooms, I think, is very important. Making sure that our therapists felt comfortable is important so that the guests can feel comfortable as well. We did, anybody who had questions, we addressed right away. We did have therapists who are refusing to return, and that's fine. You know, we are accepting of that, of course. And we have therapists who were ready to jump in and you know, give of service to the best of their abilities, our support.
Lydia, you're a massage therapist, correct?
Yes.
And in the service, how are you adjusting to using other parts of your body, your elbows, your forearms? How is that being impacted by the precautions that we put into place?
That is a very, very good question. And we did have several therapists who asked the same thing. As a therapist myself, in the school that I went to, we used a lot of body mechanics. So there are many ways as a therapist that you can use deep tissue movements without necessarily having to use your elbow or, you know, you can use your fists, you can use your body weight with your hands without damaging your wrists. So as therapists, we speak to each other a lot into different ways of working with more pressure, you know, to make sure that the guests are happy with their services without necessarily having to use our elbows.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. That was a question from Christine Huffman. So thank you, Christine, for that great question. Thank you, Lydia, for your feedback. David, coming to you on the same question. You have a big spa, you have a big team. You're a senior therapist there. You've worked for 24 years. You know, coming into that new environment, what was that like for you? And how did you navigate those changes? And how did you help the therapists coming back navigate those changes?
I think the first thing I told everyone that we came back is you have to be open-minded, because nothing is the same as what it was before. So you can't go in thinking you're going to operate the same way, and you get there and it's not the same way and get upset that it's different. You know, you really have to kind of step back and see why it's different and why we're doing things different like that. But it's definitely been a change for us. I guess with the 2 rooms, the sanitation, all the cleaning and all that stuff. Again, we have extra time to do that now, which is so helpful, and it helps us out. It's hard wearing the mask sometimes. They give us an option. The company gave us masks to wear, and some of us wore them, and this didn't work as well. So a lot of us have our own now. And you know, I was getting like dull headaches at first, you know, kind of getting used to the mask. And then I switched to a different mask and the headaches went away. So it was part of me just doing things too. And then I just cleaning, you know, everything is I wash now constantly. You know, it's everything, arms, elbows. I'm like a doctor going in, cleaning up before, after, during the treatment. I'm being extra careful, extra diligent when it comes to that, to where the guests touch, door handles being wiped down, just very, very diligent with things like that, just to protect us and the guest. So the return is safe for us all.
And is your spa taking temperatures of guests before they have a service? How are you guys?
No, the hotel is taking temperature of guests as they come into the hotel. They're taking temperature of the guests, but we do accept guests from other hotels and different places. We require that all guests wear a mask at all times inside the spa and the hotels. That's just required here in Nevada right now. There's certain rooms that we don't have open. Our wet rooms are not open. The saunas, the steam rooms, those type of facilities aren't open. We do have, since we are a very large spa, we have some big day rooms that are very big. So with half capacity, there's plenty of room to kind of get to yourself and be alone and have that social distancing that you're trying to achieve.
And did you have any therapists who returned who were reluctant to wear the mask and the face shield? And so did you overcome that?
No, I think you had some people with questions about it, you know, maybe the safety or if it works or not. But then, you know, the majority of us is again, it's about protecting everyone, you and the person. So I think it's very good that we have to wear masks. The majority of us are really on board with wearing a mask.
And I would imagine you have mask breaks built into your day. You've scheduled that so you can take that mask off and breathe a little bit without the mask on, or how are you handling that?
So what I do is after my massage and the guest is taken back, I come into the room and I strip all the linen and everything and spray that room down. And then I go to my other room, I leave that room stripped down. When I enter my other room, then I take my mask off. I clean up, wash my hands, then I take my mask off. Now I might have 30 minutes to myself. I stay in my room. That's what I do. And most of us are told to kind of, so we're not together at the computer when we're checking schedules. Our break room is totally different. Where we gather now is all the tables are gone. So just to help you not to stand around and gather. And so most of us stay in our room in between services.
And how does that, part of what we do is, we take care of other people, but part of how we take care of ourselves is the interaction with our colleagues. And so I know many spas, people are staying in their rooms between treatments. How is that impacting that interpersonal relationship between you and your fellow therapists, that there's less community time together?
It's definitely a big impact because, before when you have a good work environment, we laugh, we joke, we tease each other, and that's all pretty much gone now because you're separated. So I'll see another therapist at the end of the hallway and I'll do some little dance or something and she'll do something and we'll laugh and then, we'll go keep going our separate ways, just to kind of acknowledge, hey, I'm still here way down the hallway, and stuff like that to kind of keep it fun. Or we'll go by and as you come by someone's room as they're cleaning, you'll peek in real quick and say, hey, how you doing? Okay, good. And stick your head in real quick and then kind of shoo back off and kind of do your thing. We all know what we have to do. We all know what we have to social distance, but we still try to make it as fun as we can working.
That's great. That's great. Thank you for that, Dave. That's a beautiful answer. Mark, I have a question for you in terms of scheduling. Are you scheduling with the extended cleanup times? Are you extending schedules to accommodate that cleanup time for therapists? Are they working longer shifts? How are you handling the extended cleanup time?
So we are working longer shifts if possible, but we've just built that cleanup into our turnover routine. We use antiseptic wipes and we use alcohol, and it doesn't take us very long to turn over a room. We've adjusted our linen usage and things like that, but we haven't built in extra time. We just clean between the service.
I think that's interesting. Part of the reason why many spas removed a lot of the knickknacks and extra pieces that were in treatment rooms was to help reduce the amount of inventory that had to be cleaned between treatments. So that's a very smart idea. Lydia, same question for you. In your scheduling for the therapists down at the Carillon, are you adding time to their schedules in terms of the length of their shifts to accommodate that additional cleanup time, or how are you guys approaching that?
We do have extra added time between services for the therapists and their schedules. And we also have, thankfully, the housekeeping department that's helping us a lot. We have extra bodies on hand to assist us so that we don't have to be, we don't have to be rushed or stressed. So that's one of the great things, that we do have a lot of extra hands-on help for us.
That's great. That's great. And Kristen, same question for you.
Yeah, so we have added an additional 30 minutes to our cleanup time, and we have not extended shifts. So the max amount of appointments that a provider could have is 4. However, if you would like to extend, if you feel like you have more in you to give, then that's certainly an option. So what I am so grateful for with our spa is a lot of it is optional and based on your comfort level.
I think that's working in the new normal. We have to keep people where they're comfortable. You kind of have to meet people where they are, and that's where they are. You have to really work with them on understanding where they're comfortable. I want to talk about, and I'll stay with you on this question, Kristen, and I'll go through the panel with this question. We've taken away a lot of the spa experience that we've talked about. How have you found time, and what creative ways have you found to add in special touches so that it feels like you're still connecting to your guests? And what are those things that you're doing to make the guests still feel that you're connecting to them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's having that open dialogue. I think it's just the care and attention you give that guest. And I think that it's really important that, you know, before you start your day as a therapist, that you remember your why you do the things you do and bring that into your treatment room. Like we said, it's a different environment for our guests and for us, but I think if the intention is the same, that carries on to our guests and they feel that.
It's great, working with intention. You also working mindfully earlier, didn't you say that?
There's a theme.
That's a theme, intention, mindfulness, care. We got you guys on the right path there in Scottsdale.
Yeah. Well, that's what our industry is about. It's about health and wellness and intention and caring, and you know that's what we live for.
You know, you're right that, you know, we've often, you know, been focused on, well, how big is the spa? How many steam rooms? How many saunas? You know, is the marble from Carrera, is it Italian Carrera, or is it travertine? And, you know, those things are important and have their place. But at the end of the day, what's left is that experience with the guest and taking care of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you can have a beautiful facility, but if you don't have providers that are giving the most amazing services, you know, the facility doesn't make up for that. People are coming for touch, they're coming for relaxation, and they're coming for that, you know, that sense of well-being that only human contact can give.
And that's important for us to hear, because I think on the management side, we have lots of concern about, you know, we're taking away so much because we have to, and we want to keep people safe, and we want to keep the environment safe and the world safe. But, you know, just refocusing on what we're here to do is really, really important. Thank you for sharing that, Kristen. David, coming to you with the same question. What are you guys doing to maintain that guest connection? So, you know, there's no steam room right now. You know, that's important for people. If they work out, it's very important for them. So how are you maintaining that guest connection and keeping that connection alive with your guests?
As a therapist on my end, I think that extra time we have, that extra 25 or 30 minutes, I can address any of the concerns the guests have. We all have concerns coming in right now. So it's nice that I have the time to sit and not sit, but actually talk with them about it when I walk back as we get in the room. And I can just talk with them about any concerns they have, or why they're here. They're stressed out. You know, back home, I can't do this, I can't do that. And so they're really stressed out. So it's nice for me not to, you know, I'm just there to listen. Sometimes they just want to just get it off. So it's just nice as a later just to listen. I still continue to work, but I let them go ahead and talk. I'm not going to tell them to stop. Eventually they do stop, and they finally, but it's just nice to let them get whatever they're going through off their chest, get it gone and get it out during that hour and a half or 2 hours we have with them. They can get their mind clear, get it out, let it go. And then they actually relax. So that's really nice that I don't have to worry about another guest coming in. I got 10 minutes because I got to get to the, you know, I have 30 minutes, so I can just take my time. And I tell them, when you're done, take your time getting off the table. Don't rush. 2 or 3 minutes, let the mind, body come back together. Because I know on my end, I got 20 minutes before I got to pick up my next guest. And my other room's already clean. So we can take our time. So I really want them to have time to just relax and slow down. Because when they leave, we all know it's back to, they're moving and shaking and pushing when they go back home. So I really want them just to slow down. Just don't rush to do anything while you're here. Just slow down.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And that's the currency that we trade in, right? Is that time with people.
Yeah.
That's the currency of our business. And I think we want to reinvest in that as an industry, is that time and letting things breathe and not, you know, it's, you know, there's always going to be a tension between we need to make the budget, we need to make the revenue, we need to get those numbers. And also, we also need to give people time, because that is currency. It's there will always be a tension there. And maybe one of the benefits of this moment is that we get to actually take time with people that we haven't really had the time before to take with them. So
exactly. And your point, like, you know, I only have, again, a 6-hour shift, so I can only do four hours in that shift. But I feel, like you say, that time, we need time with people now. It's not, I need time to talk with the guests, to spend time, to let them relax more. you know, and that's so important right now, is to not get them up and rush them right back out of there, is to let them relax. It's okay, we got time.
Right. Thank you, David. Many people are loving what you're saying. Thank you for sharing that advice. Mark, coming to you with the same question. How are you at Kohler keeping that connection with your guest? And what is your thought about that?
Well, the first, I guess, positive that we have, because we're at like half capacity, it makes our place feel bigger and more space for the guest. But also our guest services team, they're not rushing because we have half the guests. So they can spend more time guiding and hand holding and taking care of the guest. For me personally, as a therapist, you know, the connection is so important. Making the connection, not with my hands, but my mind and my mouth and talking with them. Having a mask, and they can't see my smile, they can't read me as much. So I guess talk through my eyes a little bit, express it through my eyes. You know, I have a mask, I have goggles on, but focusing on them and giving them my attention and like David said, listening to them and not rushing at all, it just makes that connection. And then I can do everything that I normally would under, you know, normal conditions to provide that escape for them, that there's no rush. It's all about them. I make sure that they know it. It's all about them.
That's great. There's no rush.
There's no rush.
That's a great thing to remember. There's no rush. What's the rush? What's the rush? Lydia, coming to you with the same question. How are you guys keeping that connection going with your team, with your guests?
Go ahead, I'm sorry. I think it's important to keep an open dialogue with the guests. And like Mark said, you know, our faces are covered, we have the shield, we've got the goggles, we've got all this stuff. But that doesn't mean that we can't make that connection with the guests through dialogue. Listening to them, as David said too, is very important. Knowing that they are not in a hurry. Hey, you've taken the time to be here for you, and making them feel that we are so happy that they are there. Thank you for coming in today. I'm so happy to be able to service you, to help you feel better, so that when you go back there into your everyday rush of life, you know, you can remember this moment that you took for you, and it's a privilege to be able to help you feel better, you know. And it's important to communicate that through dialogue. And, you know, like Mark said, there is absolutely no rush. You are here for you, and I am so happy that you came today.
Wow, that's great. Tara from Tara Spa says, I love what David is saying, and all of you. Time to really give full attention. Quality connection makes the treatment experience more powerful. This is a silver lining. It's fantastic. I want to talk to you guys about mental wellness. I know, David, you kind of alluded to the idea that you're in your room more, you don't get to buck each other up as much as you used to do in the past. But what are you doing? You know, we have on goggles, we have on shields, there's masks, there's gloves, there's temperatures, there's like a whole world that we've had to build in 3 months, 4 months. But what are you doing to maintain your mental health and your mental happiness? And what is your team doing as a team to do that?
We're very fortunate in Canyon Ranch here in Las Vegas. So we have 2 beautiful gyms we could use, and they allow us therapists or any employee to actually use that gym still. So if I don't have some appointments, I can take time and go to the gym and still work out, get a good sweat in or whatever, and still come back and have time for my massage. So that's one aspect that we're very fortunate to have. But again, I kind of like my alone time anyway, personally, because when I'm here at work, again, it's about me and the guests that I get a chance to see. And other therapists will tell you this, some days is when you drop that guest off, you have to get rid of that energy. And it takes a minute to get that off of you and to move on to the next guest. So to me, it's kind of nice to have that extra time in my room alone that I could kind of, you know, meditate, take my time to do what I need to do to get myself ready for the next guest. So I really didn't mind the alone time. So it's really nice, but some people are much more social, you know, at work. And that's, I could see could be really, really hard if you're very social, because not that they don't want you to be social, but you can't do it like you used to do it. You can't come up and hug your friend and hang out and talk to them real close. I mean, you can't do that anymore. So I know it's really, really hard for a lot of people. But for me personally, I'm really okay with it. I don't mind being alone and kind of in my room. But I do get out and we still talk to other therapists in passing for a couple minutes. If we have, there's certain couple treatments we do together that you have to spend time with that therapist in that room and discuss the treatment. How are you going to do it? So we do have those couple treatments where you're with the therapist. And we still talk and gather at certain places and talk for 5-6 minutes and kind of see what's going on with each other, how our day is going. And then we just kind of keep it moving on. And so we just kind of keep that distancing. But it's definitely different. It's very hard I think, for some people who really enjoy, you know, that camaraderie. And we have a lot of therapists like that who love to hang out and laugh and joke. And so it's really, really hard for them, I think.
That's great. That's great. Mark, coming to you with the same question, how are you maintaining your mental well-being and your mental health? And what are your teammates doing? I would imagine you're doing much more support for them in some kind of ways right now.
Yeah, I agree with what David said. You know, it's hard because we as massage therapists, we're very tactile. You know, we're used to hugging. We're used to putting our hands on somebody's back and saying, well, how's it going today? So it's a constant reminder to each other that we have to keep that distance. But for myself, I have an office to go back to, and I can take my mask off, get a breather there. But we have it kind of nice here in Kohler, where behind our spa, there's an alleyway, there's an open little picnic area that goes between offices. So many of the therapists go outside and they can be distant, but yet take their mask off, get some fresh air, and chat from a distance. So that's a huge benefit for us.
That's great. Thank you for that. Lydia, coming to you with the same question. What are you doing for your mental health? What are your teammates doing down there in Miami for their mental health?
Well, you know, being in Miami does have its little bit of advantages. Because the Carillon Resort sits on the beach, we do have several open areas in the facility where you can go and sit. And there's also access to the beach where you can go and sit. You don't necessarily have to be, you can still have that 6 feet social distancing and still take time for yourself when you need a breather. Also, Carillon has created several different virtual chat groups that we can join. And we also have many wellness experts in case we suffer from anxiety or stress or just not feeling 100% today. There are many people that we can go to and speak to directly.
That's an amazing benefit. That's an amazing benefit that they're providing that for you all as employees there, that extra support that we all sometimes needed right now, particularly in this time. Thank you for sharing that, Lydia. Kristen, to you on that same question. What are you doing for your mental health? What's happening with your teammates with their mental health? How are you supporting each other?
Yeah, I mean, not to echo what everybody's saying, but we're definitely all in the same boat. I think I would just encourage people to, for mental health, you know, hold yourself accountable. If you need help, get help. There seems to be a lot of resources out there. I know the spa that I work at, we have resources. And to just be open, you know, talk with your staff, talk with your fellow employees, be an ear if you need to be, you know, just be there for each other. And I think too, you know, a big part of your mental health is also your physical health. Like, I think I can't stress it enough that people are physically active. They're going outside. They're doing things that they enjoy outside of work so that when they come into the workspace and if they're feeling a little stressed, you know, they have a healthy outlet. And I think David touched on that. You know, he goes to the gym, he gets exercise. You know, there's so many great benefits to physical exercise and mental health. So I think it's just important that, you know, just to be mindful where you're at, do as much prevention as you can with your health, and get out and enjoy your life, enjoy the things that you like doing, and if you need help, get help.
That's a great, yeah. I mean, we have to be responsible for our own mental health and well-being before we can take care of someone else. Kristen, a non-related question, but in a way a related question. In your spas, are you using the face shields that are attached to the table doing your skincare services, or how are you guys, are you working with that technology right now or no?
We're not, no.
Okay.
No. Nope, just the face shield and a facial mask. We have, we've stopped using things like steam in the treatment room. We're very mindful. We're not getting too close, close enough where we can touch our guests, but we're not so up close and personal. Again, we've got the shield and the face mask, and that feels safe to me.
Thank you for that. Lydia, coming to you with this question from Victoria, who is the lead therapist at the Mayborn in Beverly Hills. Are you still doing your full menu in terms of treatment lengths, or are you building in? How is that working for you guys?
We are not doing the full menu. No, there are several, we have a lot of touchless services available now for people who come in who don't necessarily want a massage, but would like to have the time to relax. We have a sound and vibration table. It's called the Spa Wave Table. We have a Himalayan salt table that has a self-massager built into it that the person can come in and lay on. We also have steam light, which is a color light therapy. We have those services available too, but like other spas, any of the thermals, none of that is available at the moment for now.
Mark, is that the same for you guys at Kohler? How is that working for you all right now in terms of the treatment offering?
I didn't click hard enough, so sorry. So we're using our previous menu. We were working up a new one, and then of course when all this hit, it went on hold. And so we're just running with our services that we had previously, and it's been working fine.
Thank you for that. And David at Canyon Ranch?
Yes, there's a couple of treatments we stop, but most of our menu is still open. We still do pretty much everything we've always been doing, pretty much.
That's great. So I have time for one more question. We're going to keep it tight on this one. All of us are learning to adjust to a new normal as we reopen and come back into our businesses. What is the one key lesson that you have learned in your operation that you would share with a spa director who's looking to reopen their business? What is that one key piece that you learned? Lydia, I'm going to come to you with that first.
The one key piece that I have learned in all of this, coming back to work under these circumstances, I would say it's important to be patient. Be very patient. It changes from day to day, week to week. The cities are involved and they're changing gradually, and it's important to be patient and be flexible, just, to adapt to whatever comes our way.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. David, that key takeaway that you would share with a spa director as they look to reopen their property.
I think, again, we have to come in with an open mind, but I think that what's really important is to let your staff know how things are going to be run and how are you going to do things. Have a plan. If you don't have a plan, then we don't have a plan, or have a vision so we could see where it's going. So we know where to go. We know how to guide the guest in that proper direction. And I would think that's the biggest thing. It's just let's have a plan and let's try to implement that plan.
What's the old saying? Hope is not a plan. You have to have one. You actually have to have a plan. You got to have a vision.
You got to have a vision. You got to have a plan for us during these times. Yes.
Yes. Mark, same question for you. What would you say to a spa director who's about to reopen, that one piece of advice that you would give them?
I think it's part of what everybody has said all along, that we have to be adaptable. Things change sometimes daily, but never lose sight of the focus of why we're doing this. It's to give that guest that greatest day, that escape from all the stress of what's around them facing. That hasn't changed. We may change, we may adapt to whatever it takes, but the focus is still on giving the guest the best experience.
That's fantastic. Thank you for that. Kristen, coming to you, same question. Before you answer it though, and a really good question popped in that's really specific to an esthetician. With the eliminating of testers in retail spaces, and we're seeing really still great retail increases in terms of sales. Is that because you have that extra time with the guests to close the deal, so to speak?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. And I think that, you know, you have to remember your guest really does trust you. So if you are recommending something and if you used it on them in the treatment room and they love the way it feels, I think the guests trust you more than you think. I think testers aren't, you know, and there are some skincare lines that are doing individual testers, which are great. But I would say just having the confidence in your therapist and your estheticians and recommending testers not having testers hasn't been a hurdle at all.
And what is your thank you for that. And what is your thought about that piece of advice for your spa director who's reopening that you would share with them?
I think everybody hit it, you know, Lydia with having patience with reopening, David making sure that you have a plan, and then like Mark said, you're going to have to adjust to your plan. So just be agile and patient, and again, create a plan.
Thank you for that. I just want to say this, I was really looking forward to this conversation today. And, you know, from the perspective of ISPA, you all are the heartbeat of our industry. And we thank you for what you're doing. You are frontline with our guests. We thank you for that. This has been a great time. It went by really, really fast. I want to thank you all for being on our panel today. And thanks to all of you for attending who are watching on Facebook Live or Zoom. We also want to thank Universal Companies for their support of our town hall today. So if you take a look at our screens, you'll see who our winners are for the giveaway for today. And if you've won, a member of the ISPA staff will be in touch with more details on how you can collect your prize. Finally, a couple of reminders about upcoming ISPA reopening town halls and chats with product pros. Next week's reopening town hall will be Wednesday, August 5th at 2 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be highlighting reopening success stories, and we look forward to hearing about some of the really positive outcomes going on around our industry right now. That's next Wednesday at 2 p.m. You can go to experienceispa.com to register for that. We also want to encourage you to sign up for the complimentary Live, Love, Spas panel in partnership with ISPA. It's called the Cheat Sheet. It's the first spas to reopen divulge their mistakes, strategies, and successes, which will take place next Tuesday at 3:30 p.m. So you'll come from this conversation to the Cheat Sheet. That's a great name. So please see the chat feed for a link to sign up. And then our next Product Pros chat will be on August 11th at 2 p.m. Eastern. And again, thank you all for a wonderful, wonderful day.